In this video, we're going to use a push button to control a timed light. We're essentially going to simulate the lights that you often find in the stairwells of unit blocks. When you walk into the stairwell and it's nighttime, you can press a button and a light will come on for you to walk up the stairs. It's a timed light. After a period of time, the light will then go out again. So that's what we're going to simulate. So I'll start off by putting a push button onto our breadboard. And we'll bridge this gap here so that each leg is on a separate rail. Next we'll grab an LED, and that will be our light. So I'll make sure that the LED's legs are on two different rails. Okay, now we can start wiring this up. So I'll start by putting a ground onto the ground rail, and I'll colour that black. I will get our 5 volts and I'll connect that to the positive rail. And I'll colour that red. I'll also extend the red rail on this side to the positive rail on that side, colour that red, and I'll do the same with the ground. Okay, so now we're set up. We've got our rails on each side charged negatively or positively, and we've got our two components on here onto the board now. I'm actually just going to move this LED down here so it's closer to where the pins are. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use an input and an output pin. So for this switch here, I'll connect one of its legs to a pin on here, on the Arduino here. We'll say on pin 4. I'll leave that as a green. And when we want to power the LED, we're going to do that via an output of a pin. So to the long leg, where we want to send current in, I'll connect that to pin 9. I'll just change that color. Let's make it yellow. Okay, so we've got our positive and negatives set up. We've got our output into the LED, and we've got our input from the switch. Now to complete these circuits, I'll need to connect the short leg of the LED to a negative rail, which I'll do right there, and I'll color that black. And I need to set up our switch as well. When we're using input from the switch, in the opposite leg we need to connect that to power, to our 5 volt. So I'll colour that red. And the other leg we're going to need a resistor on it. So I'll grab a resistor, turn it around, and I'll connect that to the negative rail and to the other leg of the switch. Okay, that's necessary when we're reading in to one of our data inputs. So that is our circuit set up. So what I want to do is when I press this button, I want the light to come on and I want it to stay on for a certain amount of time, and then I want it to go off. So let's bring open our code. We'll get rid of the default code that's here and we'll start to fill it out. Okay, so we have a couple of pins that we need to set up. So we'll say integer LED red. We'll say that the red is on pin 9. And then we'll say int, I'll do it in capitals, our button will be on pin 4. Okay, in our setup, we need to set up these two devices. So we'll set up the LED red pin, so that pin will be an output. So we're going to use that to put electricity out to the LED. But with our switch, our button we will call it, we want that to be an input. Okay, so we want to read from that button. Now in our loop, first thing we need to do is decide, has the button been pushed down or not? Okay, so that's when we're asking a question. In the previous video, you saw that we asked a question using an if statement to determine whether somebody was over a certain age threshold. So we would say if the age is greater or less than some other number, then we would either do one thing or we would do another. So in this case, we need to check if we will do a digital read. So we want to read, digital read, and we want to read from the button, and we want to check to see if what we read is a high voltage or a low voltage. So is the button down or is it up? So if the button is down, we need this operator, this double equals. So this is asking a question, is the thing on the left the same as the thing on the right? So I want to check to see if when we read the button, it returns a high voltage. If it does that, then we want to do what's between these two curly braces. If it's not high, so the button is not pressed, then we're not going to do anything at all. So we don't need to turn the light on. I don't need an else statement because there's nothing else to do. I'll just leave it as blank after that second curly brace. But only if the button is being pressed do we then run this code. And what we want to do in this code is we want to write digital write to the LED red, and we want to set it to high, so that is have it switched on. Okay, then we want to wait a while. So this is our delay, this is the timing. So how long should we wait? I'll wait 1,000. So it should be approximately 1 second. I'm in the wrong spot. And then lastly, after we've turned the LED on, we've waited 1,000 milliseconds. At that point, we can tell our LED red to set to low, which is lower the voltage so much that the light doesn't switch on at all. Okay, so to review this, our LED is on pin 9, our button is on pin 4. Our LED is an output, but our button is an input. We're going to ask the question, is the button input, is that a high voltage? So in other words, has the button been pushed down? If the button is being pushed down, then we'll turn the LED light on, we'll wait 1,000 milliseconds, and then we will turn the red light off again by setting it to low. And then it will keep doing this loop. For as long as the button isn't being pushed down, it will do nothing, and it will keep looping and looping and looping. And when it detects that the button is being pressed, then it will do this code again, turn the light on and off. So let's test our simulation. Our simulation is now running. You can see the LED is not lit. So I'll put my mouse over the button and press the button to turn the light on. And you can see that the light turned itself on and then off again after a period of time. So now I'll press the button again just to double check. One more press.